Hi. Well, welcome back. Some of you were on this morning's webinar, which Bart was also a participant in. So today, this afternoon's webinar is on reducing risks and liability. As you know, as you may know, Bart Didden is the claims administrator for Security America's insurance program, a program that I recommend. It's my number one recommendation for the alarm E&O. And Bart's probably why I recommend it as number one. And it's because the way they handle the claims. They understand the claims. They understand how to defend the claims. And that's important. The most important when you have a claim, okay? What's my premium is only important when you're getting ready to pay the bill. How a claim is handled is much more important. And believe me, you'll know that as soon as you get one, meaning a claim. So I'm going to turn the presentation over to Bart so he can begin his presentation. If you have questions, please write them in. If we have a small enough group and we can I can unmute you, I'll consider that. Okay. So, Bart, are you on there now?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, and you don't have a PowerPoint, right?
No, this was always designed as a interactive roundtable kind of thing when we were supposed to be in Vegas this week. But because of the coronavirus, that got dumped. But it's a time that we live in. But today, I want to talk about a couple of claims that we're even still in the process of administrating, and so all of these claims have the ability, if you don't have insurance, any of these claims that I'm going to refer to today, it will wipe you out. We have one claim where the contract was not a Ken Kirschenbaum contract. Somebody tried gleaming a contract from somebody else, and when they were gleaming or copying, they took the deductible amount, and instead of $250 for the limitation on liability, they made it $250,000, and that opened them up to we ended up settling that claim for $195,000, and the claimant actually had two losses. One insurance company chose not to pursue the subrogation rate, which was incredible to me how that could be. So the first thing is the contract. I can't stress the contract enough. Ken, you having a problem there? You're muted.
We're having a problem keeping this slide up for some reason.
Okay. So how anybody would be able to afford the defense costs, which on top of the loss of paying the $195,000 was probably in the area of $80,000 to $90,000 as well, is staggering because we had to have experts and so on. Another loss I want to talk to you about today is a fire loss, and it was an arson. They came up with a claim of in excess of $1.5 million. It's still open. It's still being negotiated, but the expert fees alone on this case are going to run $60,000 to $90,000. The defense costs will run over $100,000. And here again, this alarm company was using a contract where it has some provisions that will help the alarm company. It wasn't a contract from this century. So very important. about the contract terms and updating contracts. And when I talk about updating contracts, it isn't like you have to go out and re-sign everybody, but as systems get updated, as services change, these are excellent opportunities. So if you have a Ken Kirschenbaum contract from the 1990s, the very core provisions in that contract are still valid and still enforceable. And I don't see those as a detriment to your files, but it certainly is not a plus. Ken, would you agree with that?
Yes. Can you hear me still?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can hear you.
Okay, sorry.
So, so we have this fire. It was an arson, and the claim that's being made is that we didn't, the alarm system that is, did not respond and detect the occurrence of the fire fast enough. So it's a claim that's revolving around the idea of the design of the system as well as the performance of the system. This claim is another one that will sink any alarm company that does not have insurance. And when we settle these claims, like the last one I talked about that we settled, and this one, we won't renew these alarm companies because their basic operation leaves holes that are exploitable by plaintiffs. And that's why today's discussion, and if you have questions, send them in. This is an interactive presentation today with Ken and myself. Today is about sewing up the loopholes and documentation. And the next claim I'm going to talk about is another open claim, which is has the ability to run away like nuts, but it'll show you where your documentation, any documentation, all the documentation makes a difference. So in this other claim, we have a large facility being built. The alarm company is doing a lot of work for the GC all throughout the site. We do not have a Ken Kirschenbaum contract because the builder or the GC gave the typical GC contract that puts all the onus back on the alarm company. And Ken has written about this extensively over time, where sometimes, with good paperwork and project management, you could take these jobs because the time frame is very limited while you're there on the site and while the system is going in. But what happened was we had an open trench. We have a conduit that has a trace line in it to pull wires through the conduit. And the claimant claims that he tripped on the string, broke his leg, and then all the issues happened on top of that. Well, this is where the defense attorney makes all the difference in the world, because a company other than Sarge, would see this, say, okay, broken leg, worth $125,000 plus the medical fees, and try and close it off. It turns out that after the defense attorney really starts to interrogate our insured wasn't on the site for 2 weeks before the accident. That when they left, they believed that they had secured the string in such a way. The gate that was the person walked through when they left 2 weeks earlier was barricaded, but some other trades, because it was closer to the parking lot and easier to get on and off the site, somebody unbarricaded the gate and this gentleman walked through it. So what started out as a claim with just us and our insured and nobody else identified as having any liability now has turned into approximately 4 or 5 co-defendants. We have documentation that we should have no liability, and the on the plaintiff side, this person's after our investigation has multiple medical issues pre-existing. There is other issues going on with this person, and this person is looking for like the payday, like hitting the lottery, and only because of the due diligence of my group that looks at the claims, picks the defense counsel. I work with Ken very closely on some of these. Some of them I actually have him come in and oversee it with me. And only because of the work of the defense attorney does it turn out that our guy will probably get out with nothing. And we're going to have some defense costs, but probably less than 30,000 when we were really looking at a potential claim of 250, 300,000 all in, based on everything else that the plaintiff was throwing in on top of the claim. So this presentation is about risk management, and as you can see in this claim, the payroll records is probably the most favorable record that we have available to us to say that nobody was on the site, and that's because the alarm company tracks their labor and they're on each job. So at the end of the job, they know whether they're making money or not making money if it came in according to the estimate. So,
Bart, let's see if we can. I'm chomping at the bit to move on to a new topic,
okay.
Topical topic. And as I'm thinking about it, I think it's going to definitely be a separate webinar that we're going to give. That's going to be so topical and current that it's going to be oversold for sure. So the people that are our attendees today will get a preview or maybe a full presentation on it. And it's what is the new risk factors in today's environment. I mean, I'm sitting across from the mall. My window looks out onto the mall, and it's closed. And most businesses in New York and everywhere else are closed. The potential for burglary, the potential for fire, the potential for environmental failure is great, and the risks. Look, let me throw this out. Would it be accurate to say that most losses events occur in an empty building, in an empty residence, in an empty structure? The answer, what would you say to that?
Oh, absolutely, because that's where the opportunity is. Any of these people that are looking to violate somebody's property is not looking to have a confrontation with another person. They're looking to snatch and grab, or in the case of the drug warehouse in Connecticut, where they wiped it out for $80 million. They cut the roof, they backed their trucks into the building, they shut the doors, the police come, they don't see anything because they're behind steel roll down gates loading up tractor trailers full of pharmaceuticals. So there's
let me this thought just came to me, and again, you and I are the only ones on here, so we can interrupt each other, I hope.
Oh yeah.
As our thought.
Well, you do You do it all the time anyway, so.
Okay, but think about it. How many losses do we have between Christmas and New Year's when places are closed? That you get. I think if you think about it, I never thought about it before, really, but if you think about it, there's an awful lot of losses that percentage-wise that come in during that time period.
Yeah, well, how many times have we, heard stories about uh, people whose homes have been broken into, cars that have been broken into, um, during the holidays. So yeah, there's certainly more opportunity
Oh,
when those things are occurring. But
that's someone trying to Skype me. Sorry, we'll call her.
that's okay. But you talk about today's times. There was a notice that went up 2 days ago on Facebook from the New Shoreham Police Department, which is Block Island off of Rhode Island, and it says on Wednesday, the 18th, the police department received a credible information from a concerned citizen that an unnamed person residing on Block Island had threatened to damage the Block Island Power Company transformers in an effort to shut down power down for the purposes of discouraging visitors to Block Island. I mean, this is because I've heard about this in some other areas of the country where residents that are in these vacation type areas don't want people coming because, like, Block Island is 13 miles off the shoreline. If somebody comes across on that boat with coronavirus, the whole island is going to end up with it because at this time of the year, there's only about 1,200 residents. So, um, you know, there are some wacky people out there right now, and so I think the call for security is going to increase in many cases, especially in the public infrastructure.
I have a question to raise to you, which is unfair because you're on the claims side, and this is really an underwriting issue, I think. I'm wondering, some of us, some of the attendees, you and I also, were supposed to be on our way home from Vegas today, and I canceled along with everybody else, obviously, that was going. But I know when I called my insurance company that insured my trip, that trip insurance that you get, they had a whole recording that started with, if your cancellation has anything to do with coronavirus, you're not covered. It's a pandemic and it's excluded from coverage. I wonder if losses in the alarm industry with some of those E&O policies exclude losses during a pandemic condition, which is we certainly have now. I don't want to put you on the spot whether you would know that or not, but that could be an issue in some of these policies.
Well, I will tell you this notice, about the power station. I said, I was talking about, the next sentence is, the police chief said this is a serious domestic terror threat. That right there excludes many of the policies in the alarm industry.
Right. And it also, by the way, excludes your own business liability policies as well, which every customer has, and every alarm company also has for their own premises, their own premise liability exposure.
Yeah, I mean, my renewal's coming up in 2 weeks, and I had to sign a statement whether I wanted terrorist insurance or not. And this notice actually makes me think twice about whether or not I should accept that endorsement or continue to refuse it like I've always done.
So here we are, today's environment, today's situation, which is changing by the minute or by the hour maybe. What exposure are alarm companies going to have? What happens if you get that service call and you can't get to it? Today, of course, we covered the central station, what all the central stations are doing to make sure that your monitoring service continues. But what does the dealer do to ensure that its services continues? Someone calls with a broken window. They need it fixed. Maybe they're on a service contract. Maybe they're not. You get that call. Can you come and fix it? Are alarm companies going to start having trouble finding parts? Well, we certainly know if a lot of parts come from China, and there could be plenty of problems getting camera parts or cameras, new cameras, right?
There's already been statements by camera manufacturers that the supply chain is exhausted. You know, they're showing signs of hope that now that China's on the backside of the peak of the coronavirus, is going to start operations again, but it's going to take a number of weeks for it to fill the supply chain. So there's definitely a lot of things to be considered. We heard this morning where some alarm companies are calling because they have to protect their employees. They're calling the premise that required or asked for a service call and said, "Are there anybody there that has the virus, or anybody there self-quarantining? In the 14-day method, is anybody there waiting for test results to come back?" Because an alarm company won't send their person into that environment for the obvious reasons.
Right.
So there, everything. It's a clean slate. And the other thing that we talked about this morning was alarm companies being able to maintain a level of service, because when the revenue isn't coming from sales or installation, what do you do with the service people? What do you do with the installers? What do you do with the salespeople? And one of the things that was mentioned was how government is the fail-safe here that creates that safety net called unemployment insurance that we as installers pay all the time. And there is no shame in cutting back, because you have to protect the overall business so that the business can continue, because this is not an issue that's going to last forever. It's going to run its course, and then we're all going to go back to life as it will be then, instead of now or yesterday. And the alarm company the company operator has to make the difficult decisions on how they're going to maintain their company, last through the shortage of revenue, and and then restart operations. We've seen comments from ADI, in the emails. They're trying to limit the exposure of people, so you can pick up your orders out front in the after-hour pickup area. You see the restaurants. You could do takeout. We'll bring it out to your car. And then this morning, there was a doctor on one of the news channels. Whenever she gets a delivery, the delivery person comes, whether it's food or whatever, they put it on the front stoop. But let's say it was a box. She opens the box up outside. She wipes everything down that she's taking into the house outside, leaves all the paper towels and everything that she used and the box outside, and only brings in what needs to absolutely come inside. And it's just a good example of how deep you have to think about what you're doing.
Okay. So how about dealing with your insurance company at this point? What's changed as far as that goes? What do you do if you do have a loss? How do you communicate with anybody? Are the insurance companies are probably reducing staff or closing down altogether? And you know what? I know that you're involved in Security America, but I see we've got Sean Iverson on here, and I'm going to unmute you, Sean, assuming you're still listening. Let's see if you're able to contribute. Sean, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes. So Here you go. You're at bat, buddy. What can you do to help us?
Well, for us, we're
Wait,
able to.
first, wait a minute. You're entitled to a plug. So first tell everybody who you are and where you're from.
Well, I appreciate that, Ken. Thank you. So we're with the Insurance Center. We specialize in the alarm industry, taking care of dealers, specializing in the insurance. We love Sarge, and we do right with Sarge. So they are one of our carriers. So plug for you as well. We also we actually referred two people to you this week, Ken, on their contracts.
That's a double thumbs up, Bart.
So it's a good trilogy, I guess we have. But yeah, so we're open for business. Luckily, there's about 15 of us in the office, and most of us are working remotely. We have surfaces. Our phones are attached to that so that we are answering phones. If people call in, they don't even know any difference. Our emails are active. As long as we have internet, we are full speed ahead, taking care of everybody through claims, through writing new business, et cetera, et cetera. And
where are you located?
We're in Utah.
Utah. Okay.
Yes. Yep. So we're Mountain Standard Time. We're open 9 to 5, but we do have capabilities of reaching out on the East Coast when you want to get something done early. We can accommodate that as well. But it's sad that we can't have face-to-face anymore, and so our doors are locked. But typically, we'd only have one or two people come in to the office on a regular.
Turn your cam on. Maybe we'll let you. I don't know. Can we see you on it?
Let's take a look here. Webcam.
I don't want to catch you home in your pajamas, but
I'm actually in the office today. There's 3 of us in the office today is all, and so I don't even know where I can turn my camera on here.
All right, we'll get you on the next one.
So
what's it like? Are you getting any claims in? Do you have to talk to insurance companies, underwriters, or claims people? How are you finding it difficult to get through to the carriers? I can't imagine that they are business as usual. I doubt it.
Most of the carriers that we represent, they're working remotely as well. It is a little bit more difficult. Some of their phone systems aren't working, but we can communicate via email. And so we are still dealing with that. What we're dealing with the COVID-19, a lot of the businesses are wanting to know if there's business interruption coverage, because we sell the business income or business interruption coverage in the event there's a covered peril. And unfortunately, you were asking about if a virus or bacteria is a covered peril, and typically it is excluded in the general liability, the professional liability, and also the property coverage. And business income and business interruption is part of the property coverage. Therefore, those entities that are struggling or losing income because of the coronavirus, it is an excluded event, and so there's no coverage. So it's a sad thing that we have to share that, sorry, yes, you have business interruption or business income coverage, but this is not a covered peril.
Okay, that was pretty clear, so I don't have to try and rephrase it, that's for sure. But how about this? What if a claim comes in during this situation? I'm staring across at the mall. The mall's closed. Neiman Marcus gets robbed tonight. They take several $100,000 worth of shoes and handbags. That's what the closest door department is if you walk through the door over here. They sue the alarm. The alarm didn't work for whatever reason. Is it excluded? Are we able to say to them, hey, we're not responsible during this period of time, on top of all the other defenses that we might have?
Bart, you can probably respond more than I can, but from what we've seen, if it is a theft, so if there is a violent entry or an entry that's not just like a key entry, so it's truly a theft or a damage or vandalism, that will be covered under this time. And
you know who else? You know who else we got on here? Let's see, a Connor Walsh from J. Krug. Let's see if he has anything to add to this.
I agree with it is a covered event.
Bart. It's a covered event.
Yeah.
The E&O policies are going to cover events during this period of time. They're not going to take the position, look, we were in the middle of a world crisis, and guess what? We're not going to cover you for this kind of situation.
Sarge is going to stand up for its policies and its insureds. You got to remember, Sarge is owned by the industry. We see this as, any other exposure that we normally have. This is not contributed to by the pandemic. The pandemic isn't knocking out the communication systems, or the municipal response, as sorry as it is in a lot of places. But we're still able to notify the key holders and so on. So from my standpoint in administrating a claim, I would see this as just as any other claim, and if the alarm worked as it was supposed to, and the central station retransmitted it as it's supposed to, and the police didn't get there, we would be falling back on the contract terms, saying, look, everybody did what they were supposed to do. Here's the limitation of liability, unless you can start proving, some sort of gross negligence somewhere, it's just going to run its course.
Okay. Here's a question. Not sure if Security America includes business interruption insurance, but I'm curious if this pandemic might be covered for those companies that are forced to close. Jeff, I think that's from Jeff Cohn. Jeff, I'm going to unmute you if you want to join the conversation. You're unmuted. Go ahead, Jeff. You're up.
Oh, thanks. No, I was listening to the radio.
I caught you off guard. I got it. Jeff, tell everyone where you're from. We're going to give you a plug here.
Oh, sorry. I'm from Quick Response Monitoring in Cleveland. We're not affected. We're still running, but I was just curious as to you're hearing more and more of this on the radio. A couple of the radio shows have talked about this as companies are affected. So I was just kind of curious as to not so much Security America, but in general. And I think the last person who the last fellow you had on kind of addressed this question.
Yeah, Sean. First of all, does anyone think I have a new opportunity in radio? I mean, that, or talk TV? I mean, no, Bart, you don't think so?
No.
Bart, you could be my Jesse Waters.
Well, you see, then you might have a chance, because if you're not attacking somebody, then you're not funny or anything at all. So.
Okay.
And let's just tell everybody that you and I have known each other for 35 plus years now. So, this is more than just the internet and webinars from your office.
Excuse me, I just got a comment from someone who will remain anonymous. Bart has a face for radio.
Bart has a what?
A face for radio.
Oh, great.
Okay, but here's
probably one of my employees.
No, it's not. I know who it is, and I'm not telling you. Would you recommend that dealers send an email to a customer who refuses service to document the refusal? Of course. You should. If a customer's system is down and they don't want to fix it, there's nothing wrong with documenting it. That'll come back to bite them real hard if a loss comes up.
The nursing homes and hospitals automatically have built in, the coverage for that, because there's mandates from the government saying no, other than employees, no one goes onto those properties. My mother-in-law is in a facility, and it's killing us because nobody can go visit her. And she's going to be 97, I think. And I think, Ken, is that your mother who's celebrating 104 yesterday or today?
My mom was 104 yesterday.
Yeah, happy birthday.
She's looking for a job as an operator. She's pretty sharp still. Okay, so we have any more questions? Because Bart's running out of steam. And Eileen's definitely running out of steam standing here.
Why,
I think
why don't you just plug up, from the earlier seminar that we had more people that signed up that could attend because of constrictions with the system, but that you're going to post that webinar up on your website that anybody can replay on demand.
right. As soon as we get done doing the recording, posting the recording on this one, then we'll have 3 of them all ready to go. I'm going to send that out by email, so that's going to come out in a little while, I think. But I think that because of current situations, we are really in a fluid environment right now, a fluid situation. That's what it is. We don't know how claims are going to be handled. We don't know how policies are going to be written. Things hopefully will go back to normal real fast. But you know what? We don't know. We really don't know.
The only thing that I see in the claims processing area that could lead to an issue is going to be to get an investigator out to a scene to do an investigation. That's the only bump in the road I see. The court actions, the filings, all that stuff, they all have a year to last. We're going to be out of this well before then. And all they got to do is file. All they got to do is file to preserve their right.
Well, I can tell you that's an interesting comment you just made, because first of all, let me tell you, at least here in New York, court systems are shut down. That I can tell you. The bankruptcy system is shut down.
Can you file online for a new case?
I think you can file online, but you're not going to get a meeting. While we're doing this webinar, my staff is on another webinar with the U.S. Trustee's Office for this district, for this region, which is New York, Connecticut, I think Massachusetts, all along the East Coast. They're not going to be conducting meetings. They can't.
Well, that's why I'm saying, as long as they can continue to file cases, they preserve their right under your contract to start an action within a year.
Well, I saw, it's very interesting. I saw somewhere today that someone's requesting that, or suggesting that the statute of limitations be suspended during this period of time. So they can do that. It's called tolling the statute of limitations. But it would be very interesting if the statute of limitations is tolled. Does that toll a contractual shortening period? Because a contractual 1-year period for commencing an action is not the same as a statute of limitations.
Exactly.
I don't know whether a judge would somehow excuse it. 1 year is generally accepted as permissible. They may say, listen, if you wait, look, you might be able to, you probably can file an action now, especially if it's e-filing, you'll probably be able to file it. And I can't imagine, unless the Walking Dead scenario comes true, that the government isn't going to be up and staffing certain of its areas. Court filings would probably be one of them, I would think. Sure. Anyway, we don't know. So we're gonna schedule some more of these webinars, I think, especially if I'm stuck at home and Bart's stuck at home. And if anyone on here wants to do a webinar and has some good ideas, let me know and we'll schedule it. Yet this morning's webinar is proof enough that we can get a full audience in less than 24 hours, because that's all the notice I did yesterday. And hopefully you find them worthwhile. They're certainly worth what you're paying for them. I'm still getting bombarded with one webinar request after another that I have to pay for. And thanks to Bart and the others that have been willing to lend their experience and their expertise and their time, we've been able to put these hopefully educational webinars to good use. So anyway, Bart, you have anything else you want to add before I sign off?
Yeah, just that this is, and we should have said this in the last webinar as well. This is a great opportunity now that with reduced workloads in the office, if you're going to keep, one or two people in the office to answer phones and do some internal work, now is a great time to take an inventory of customer folders for contracts, looking for contracts, making sure that there's documentation in those folders, make sure everything that's filed is filed in the right folder. You'd be surprised how many times a document fell into the wrong folder, like the one before or the one after. So it's a good time for some house cleaning, and you can also identify customers that are on old contracts from the 90s or even the 80s that need to get updated.
That's certainly good advice. All right, folks, we're gonna sign off, and I want to thank you all for attending. Any of you have any ideas or want to do a webinar, let me know. And I'll be bringing back Bart back anyway, sometime next week, I hope. Actually, Bart's office has a webinar. Sharon Elder is giving a webinar, I think, next week, isn't she, Bart? Yeah.
Yeah, about remote video and creating more RMR. And in these times, the camera work, which always has better margins than alarm work, and with the whole ramping up on security, you may find that there's customers out there looking for more interested in camera work right now to supplement the alarm systems that are installed.
Bart, you better tell Sharon to get ready to answer whether or not the cameras can be supplied. That might be something she better be ready to talk about.
That's a good point.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you. Bart, thank you. And we'll see you soon. Stay healthy. Stay safe.
Thanks, Ken.
Oh, how do I close this?